The world lost a little of its light yesterday as we said farewell to Captain Jim Lovell, a true American hero. At 97, his passing marks the end of an era when brave souls reached for the stars. Lovell was more than an astronaut. He was a symbol of courage and optimism, known worldwide for leading Apollo 13 through one of history's most dramatic survival stories. His calm voice during crisis, "Houston, we've had a problem," is etched in our memory. He inspired generations to aim high and never give up, showing us that true heroism is grace under pressure. Lovell's legacy isn't just about spaceflight. It's about leadership, trust, and the steady hand you want in any crisis. He showed us that sometimes success is not about reaching the moon, but about bringing your crew home. Jim Lovell's star has returned to the heavens, but his story will always inspire us to reach for our own moons. Before he was an astronaut, Jim Lovell was a young man in Cleveland, Ohio, dreaming of flight and adventure. He became a skilled naval aviator, testing the limits of new jet fighters and honing the discipline that would one day save lives. Rejected from the first astronaut group, he didn't give up. Instead, he returned stronger, joining NASA's New 9 in 1962. Lovell quickly became one of NASA's most reliable astronauts, flying on Gemini 7, Gemini 12, and Apollo 8 before his legendary Apollo 13 mission. He set endurance records, perfected spacewalk techniques, and built a reputation for calm leadership. At home, he was a devoted husband and father, balancing the demands of spaceflight with family life. Lovell's journey was defined by resilience, professionalism, and a relentless pursuit of his dreams. He was a leader in the sky and on the ground, a complete man whose character matched the machines he flew. In April 1970, Jim Lovell commanded Apollo 13, aiming for a third American landing on the moon. With crewmates Jack Swigert and Fred Hayes, Lovell was set to fulfill his dream of walking on lunar soil. The mission began smoothly, with the Saturn V rocket launching them toward the heavens. The crew performed checks, broadcasted to Earth, and watched our planet shrink behind them. Inside Odyssey, spirits were high. Lovell's humor and calm set the tone. But hidden in the service module, a damaged wire in an oxygen tank threatened disaster. As the crew finished a TV broadcast, Swigert flipped a switch to stir the tanks. That simple act triggered catastrophe, a silent explosion that would change everything. The dream of the moon vanished, replaced by a desperate fight for survival. Apollo 13's journey was about to become a test of human ingenuity and courage. The explosion rocked Odyssey, warning lights flashed, alarms blared, and in an instant, the crew's mission changed from exploration to survival. The calm of deep space was shattered by chaos as the astronauts realized something had gone terribly wrong. Outside, precious oxygen vented into the void, forming a ghostly cloud that drifted away from the crippled spacecraft. The life support systems, so carefully engineered, were now failing. Lovell's calm report, "Houston, we've had a problem," signaled the start of a life-or-death ordeal. His steady voice masked the gravity of the situation, but everyone at Mission Control knew the stakes. Mission Control scrambled to understand the crisis as the crew watched their power, oxygen, and water disappear. Engineers and astronauts alike raced against time, searching for answers in a sea of uncertainty. The command module was crippled, its systems failing one by one, leaving the crew stranded nearly 200,000 miles from home. The moon was now out of reach, and survival was uncertain. Lovell's leadership was crucial. He became the anchor for his crew in the midst of chaos. He kept his crew focused, assigning tasks and keeping panic at bay, even as the situation grew more desperate. Working with Houston, the astronauts assessed the damage, relaying every detail and following instructions with precision. There was no time for fear. Every second counted. The margin for error was gone, and the smallest mistake could be fatal. Their only hope, the lunar module Aquarius, a fragile craft never intended for such a mission, was designed for 2 men on the moon, not as a lifeboat in deep space. Now, it would have to support 3 men for days, pushing its systems to the limit. Aquarius was never meant for this, but it was all they had. Every system, every resource, had to be stretched and improvised. The crew moved quickly, shutting down Odyssey to conserve what little power remained, and crowding into the tiny lunar module, their new sanctuary in the void. In the blackness of space, with Earth growing distant and hope fading, they faced impossible odds. The world watched in suspense as 3 men led by Lovell fought for their lives. Inside their fragile lifeboat, The crew improvised, adapted, and never gave up hope. It was a moment that tested the limits of human courage and ingenuity, uniting people across the globe in hope and determination. The mission to the moon was over. Now, the only mission was survival. The mission to get home had just begun, and the world held its breath. With Odyssey dying, Lovell led his crew into Aquarius, a lunar module never meant for such a journey. The lunar module was designed as a short-term lifeboat for 2 men, not a long-term shelter for 3. Yet with no other choice, the crew squeezed inside, leaving behind the familiar safety of the command module for the unknown. 3 men crammed into a space built for 2, shutting down systems to conserve power, shivering in the dark and cold. Every move was calculated, every watt of electricity precious. The lunar module became a lifeboat adrift in the void, its walls closing in as the temperature dropped. Water was scarce, food limited, and the temperature dropped near freezing. The crew rationed every sip and every bite, their breath turning to frost on the walls. They endured hunger, thirst, and bone-chilling cold, all while knowing that one mistake could be fatal. The biggest threat, carbon dioxide. As they breathed, the gas built up, threatening to poison them in their fragile sanctuary. The lunar module's filters couldn't last the whole trip, and the command module's spares didn't fit. The crew faced a deadly puzzle: how to clean the air with the wrong equipment. On Earth, engineers raced to solve the square peg in a round hole problem, designing a makeshift adapter from cardboard, plastic, and duct tape. Time was running out, and failure was not an option. The world's best minds worked through the night, improvising with whatever materials the astronauts had on board. Following instructions from Houston, the crew built the device, improvised, ugly, but it worked. Their lives depended on it, and their trust in the team on the ground was absolute. This moment became a symbol of Apollo 13, teamwork, creativity, and survival against the odds. It showed what could be achieved when people refused to give up, no matter how dire the situation. Hundreds on the ground and 3 in space worked as one team. The connection between Earth and the spacecraft was a lifeline, uniting them in a single purpose. Every challenge was met with ingenuity and determination. Each obstacle became a test of human resolve, and each solution a testament to the power of collaboration. The world watched, hoping for a miracle. Families, scientists, and strangers everywhere held their breath, united by hope and fear for the astronauts' safe return. The fight for survival was a triumph of human spirit and collaboration. Against all odds, Apollo 13 became a story not of disaster but of ingenuity, courage, and the unbreakable will to survive. Even with their lifeboat, the journey home was perilous. Every moment was a test of endurance, ingenuity, and sheer willpower, as the crew faced a cascade of life-threatening challenges. The explosion had knocked Apollo 13 off course. To return, the crew had to perform a critical engine burn using the lunar module's descent engine. This maneuver, never intended for such a purpose, required absolute precision. The astronauts and ground control worked together, calculating every detail, knowing that a single mistake could mean disaster. With navigation systems down, Lovell manually steered the ship, using the sun as a guide. He relied on his training and instincts, making split-second decisions in the darkness of space, while his crewmates supported him through every tense moment. The maneuver was flawless, sending them around the moon and back toward Earth. As they looped behind the lunar surface, the vast emptiness of space was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. As they passed behind the moon, radio silence left the world holding its breath. For those minutes, no one on Earth knew if the crew was safe or lost forever. The return trip was 4 days of darkness, cold, and exhaustion. The lunar module, designed for 2 men for 2 days, now sheltered 3 for far longer. The crew rationed water, scraped ice from the walls, and shivered in their suits, their breath visible in the frigid air. Lovell's leadership and humor kept morale alive as the crew worked through endless procedures. Each man relied on the others, their camaraderie and trust becoming as vital as any piece of equipment. Back in Houston, teams worked non-stop, writing new instructions and simulating every scenario. The final hurdle, re-entry, loomed ahead, with no guarantees. The crew had to power up Odyssey with limited batteries, transfer guidance data, and hope the battered ship would survive. Every switch thrown and button pressed was a leap of faith, guided by the voices from Mission Control. they jettisoned Aquarius and the crippled service module, bracing for the fiery descent. The moment of truth had arrived, and all they could do was trust in their preparations. Radio silence stretched for 4 agonizing minutes. In those moments, time seemed to stand still for everyone watching and waiting. The world waited, not knowing if the crew had survived. Families, friends, and strangers alike were united in hope and fear, their eyes fixed on the skies. Against all odds, they were coming home. The battered capsule splashed down safely, and the world erupted in relief and celebration at the triumph of human spirit and teamwork. On April 17, 1970, Odyssey's parachutes blossomed over the Pacific, and the world cheered. Apollo 13's crew was safe, tired, weak, but alive. They hadn't landed on the moon, but their successful failure became one of NASA's proudest moments. Lovell, twice to the moon but never a lunar walker, once joked, "Twice a bridesmaid, never a bride." Yet he came to see the mission's true achievement, bringing his crew home against all odds. Apollo 13 became a universal story of resilience, teamwork, and the will to survive. The mission's lessons led to safer spacecraft and new respect for the teams on the ground. Lovell's calm leadership became a model for crisis management everywhere. The world learned that success isn't always about reaching your goal. It's about overcoming the obstacles along the way. Apollo 13's legacy endures as a testament to the power of hope and human ingenuity. In 1995, Ron Howard's film Apollo 13 brought the mission's drama to a new generation. I had the honor of portraying Jim Lovell, working closely with him to capture his spirit and leadership. The film's authenticity and tension made "Houston, we have a problem" an iconic phrase. Lovell's cameo as the recovery ship captain was a symbolic passing of the torch. The movie renewed interest in space exploration and inspired countless young people to pursue science and engineering. It showed the world the human side of spaceflight: fear, hope, and ingenuity. For me and millions of viewers, Apollo 13 became a lesson in perseverance and teamwork. Jim Lovell's story, immortalized on screen, continues to inspire courage and hope. Jim Lovell's legacy is written in the stars, but felt here on Earth in the lives he inspired. He showed us that true heroism is how you respond when things go wrong. As a 4-time astronaut, he expanded our understanding of the universe and our own potential. Lovell's calm optimism and trust in his team became the blueprint for leadership under pressure. He reminded us that astronauts are human, full of wonder, humor, and courage. His life is a testament to teamwork, ingenuity, and never giving up. As we look to new frontiers, Lovell's lessons remain more important than ever. Jim Lovell's spirit will always guide us to reach for the stars.